Everyone, you're watching Good for the Game TV. It's Monday night, 9 o'clock. It's time for Use It or Lose It. We're all about the Rugby World Cup coming up tonight. We're going to be talking about the Bok Type 5. The panel will be running through who they think should be in each position and also who they think should fill the balance of the squad. We'll also have a look at the Bok injury list, which is growing, and we pose the question, who would we least like to lose, and what if some of these injuries to the likes of Khaleesi and Etzebeth are of a more permanent nature? What sort of impact will that have on the Springboks? And we've got a class panel assembled to chat you through that. Before you do anything else, so if you are new to our videos, go down below the video, hit the subscribe button and whack the bell there. You'll get notified of all of them. Most of our videos are rugby related and quite a few of them are betting related, but we're also just going to be building up in general towards the World Cup. We do prefer to talk Rugby World Cup on the show rather than Cricket World Cup for obvious reasons. We don't want to get too much into that, but let me introduce the panel now. And starting there in his green beanie, it's Donovan down there in the Cape. Donovan, good to have you back on the show.
No, thanks for having me.
Excellent. So Donovan's Unbiased Rugby. And Donovan, can I ask, are you a cricket fan? Have you been watching the cricket at all?
I actually haven't. I went and saw my mother this morning, and she was so depressed that we'd lost against Bangladesh. So I thought, okay, I hadn't started watching, so I don't think I'm going to start now.
No, it's certainly not with India being our next game. I must say, Couch, to bring you in there, my mother-in-law also is quite heavily into cricket, and she was also depressed yesterday when I saw it, and it was certainly a bit of a depressing performance by the Proteas.
Brent, following the Proteas is like watching Game of Thrones. If you didn't start, then don't waste the 7 seasons of trying to catch up. It's just pain and suffering to come.
Excellent. And Sean, finally, Judge Rugby, to introduce you. I see you've been active on Twitter, and I think I saw you commenting on a couple of cricket threads as well.
Yeah, cricket's not been great, but nothing like an uphill battle to see what we made of. And yeah, the rugby Twitter this weekend has been interesting to say the least. Been quite entertaining, but be that as it may, it always makes for some fun.
It certainly does. Well, let's stay with you quickly while we just touch on the Bok injury list before we get into the Type 5 itself. Of course, we had the injury now to Etzebeth. We've got Khaleesi out. There's a couple more that are probably carrying injuries. Are you concerned as a Bok fan that we could go into this World Cup short couple of top players?
I think to follow on with our discussion last week in terms of player management, I think that coupled with a couple of injuries is going to be a bit of a concern, and also a little bit of burnout. I think Etzebeth is supposed to have had a broken hand or a broken wrist of some sorts. I haven't got any confirmation in terms of how long he's out for. That is a concern for us. My concern with that is he's just come off an injury, so he's going to miss valuable game time getting back and getting ready. Him coming off an injury into the box setup's not a problem. It's now two on the trot. Whiteley's also out and said that he may not be able to. He doesn't know if he's going to be available for the World Cup. He's obviously trying. And Khaleesi's injured with a knee injury. Nothing serious as far as I know. But I mean, those are 3 guys that are pretty much guaranteed, and are like Whiteley, touch and go, but those are 3 guys guaranteed squad places. So we literally need to have a look at some other options. Yeah.
And Couch, I mean, I guess the challenge is if someone like Khaleesi goes down, then you find yourself looking for a captain. Whiteley would have been one of the obvious choices, but he's also, constantly got injuries.
No, definitely, Brent. And as you said, you'd say, like, who do you not want to lose? Obviously, Khaleesi is right up there. But to me, and that's why when we said in the player management, I'd pretty much pull Marks right now. To me, Marks is the almost, he's the standout, the first guy you'd probably pick in a World 15 out of any of our players. So to me, Malcolm Marks is the guy to worry about. Obviously, Eben, but I mean, he hasn't been in great form in any case, which is another concern. You'd actually like him to be playing a little bit of rugby and really getting into the thick of it. To me, Eben is like one of those guys. He almost gets more frustrated when he's not on form, not playing, and then he's almost a bit of a liability. He could cause a little bit of chaos when he's a bit ill-disciplined. So we'd prefer him on the field. Khaleesi the same. He might as well just rest up and ready himself. We know what he can deliver. And he's in pretty good nick. So, I mean, I'd just rest him. Obviously, Waza, it's not nice and it's not good for him. But as we talked about the Lucy's last week, he might not have made it into our squad in any case. So he's not the biggest loss there.
Well, if you missed last week's show, I will when I put the version of this show up the recorded version. I'll put a link to it right at the end as well. So if you want to go back and see what we said then. Donovan, yourself, major concerns around the injuries on Unbiased Rugby, or are you pretty relaxed that they're probably happening at the right time and the boys should be fired up for the World Cup?
Look, the one thing with Evan Etzebeth, I've noticed since he lost the captaincy, not that he lost it, he obviously got injured, and I think he had a series of knocks, and I think a lot of mental, physical, a lot of things all happening at once. He wasn't the same kind of he was 2 years ago, where you come to the field, you have a real enforcer, and it just seemed it's just a little bit off the boil. But he is the one kind of player that could step quite quickly into the setup quite quickly. It just needs 1 or 2 games and he'll be back into the thing. But my biggest one was because I try to compare them to other players. So I'm thinking, well, is even Etzebeth as bad as losing a Brodie Retallick? So I don't know. I think we might have other players that could possibly step into that role. The one that I would have thought it would have been Lewitt, but he's obviously also injured. So yeah, it is a tough one. With coming back to Khaleesi, I think they'll manage him back into health again. I really do, and I do agree that after Khaleesi, it'd probably be Marks.
Okay, no, fair enough. Any other comments on the injuries, guys, before we get into the Tight 5 chat?
Yeah, Brent, just from my side, I think the big thing to remember is we're not, alone in this boat. I mean, the Kiwis have actually got some serious concerns, and they've got a few guys that I don't even think will make the Super Rugby, or that get a game or two, So exactly, Brodie, he's been put off. Dane Coles has finally come back now. Kieran Reid's been in and out a little bit, so he's a bit of a concern. Sam Kane, obviously, he's got back. Well, the troubling thing almost for us is that it's his second game in already. He looked sharp, so he's there just in time. But and they've already lost Damian McKenzie, so we're not going to be alone in the situation, and it is going to happen. And we can only hope that it's only 1 or 2 more minor players, if you will, rather than the key guys.
Well, just to welcome the guys on the live chat, I see Hendrik Swart saying that we missed the memo there, and we don't have beanies on today, and promised him next week we'll get something sorted. And Andre as well, he's saying RG, of course, could be a big loss, and we are going to be talking about the locks as well. But Couch, let me stay with you there, Couch Critic, and let's start off with the loosehead prop position now for the Boks. So I think there's a couple of obvious candidates here, and perhaps a couple of bolters who could be included. We were talking before the show, we're probably looking at 5 props in total.
Yes, for me it's 5 props and two outright loose heads, and then you can either decide to take a third tight head. You always feel that tight head is almost the cornerstone of your scrum and cornerstone of your team, and that's where it starts. So often they opt for the third tight head, or alternatively a tight head who can pop into loose head as well, which would be a Kuni or Trevor Nyakane. But for me on loose head, we talked about it last week as well, and I think Sean touched on it in social media as well, where we said, the whole form versus experience and what you bring to the team as proven excellence, if you will. And Lizo he's been shooting the lights out. To me, he's head and shoulders the best loosehead prop in the country at the moment, and one of the best in Super Rugby on display, I feel. And he might be unlucky to lose out, because you're just not going to go without Beast. He's got the pedigree, he's got the experience, he's got the know-how, and there's definitely nothing wrong with his scrumming or his all-round ability. So Beast is one of the first names down from Rassie Erasmus, I'm pretty sure. And then Steven Kitsoff, he's come back as a complete player, ball carrier. Obviously, overseas, your scrummaging just improves, and he's top-notch in that department. I think it's an extra bonus for Rassie that he's been in the leadership role at the Stormers as well. So, he brings all of that to the Springbok setup. So, unfortunately, for Lizo, you're not going to be able to bust the door down ahead of those 2 guys for this World Cup. And unfortunately, I'm not taking a third loosehead. To me, that's a wasted position. You rather want a versatile player. So my 2 it's Beast starting and Kitsoff off the bench.
Beast and Kitsoff. Let's go over to Sean now and get his views on the loosehead prop position.
Yeah, I agree totally. I think Koboka, it sucks that he has to miss out, but I just can't see him going ahead of Kitsoff and Beast currently if they stay fit. We put a lot of time and effort into them, and what they bring all round is huge. And it's not like he's absolutely smashing and outplaying the guys. You know, it's almost like they're all even, and it's a tough one. But I've no doubt in my mind he will be selected in the squad to play post World Cup. I have no problem. I have no doubt that he'll come straight in.
And anyone else who Hein hasn't mentioned who could be a contender, or we pretty much nailed down at Beast and Kitsoff?
Yeah, I think that's it. To be fair, I think I don't think anyone realistically can move away from that.
Donovan, you mentioned last time you used to play in the front row. What were you, a loose head or a tight head?
I was number one. I was loose head.
Okay, so you'll have some strong opinions on this one. I mean, it is probably one which is easier to select than some of the other positions. Anything?
I try to look at who they're going to be opposing. So I look at the quality tight heads that they're going to face in. Obviously, the group stages, we're going to face New Zealand. And if we want to get past the quarters, we're going to probably have to play against Ireland. So we need to be able to have loose heads that can go up against Tide Furlong and Owen Franks. So we need somebody with a bit of quality. So I'd say the only one that has the kind of experience, obviously the Beast, he has to be there. He's got the experience to be able to scrummage against really world-class tight heads. Yes, I will say that Stephen Kitsoff would be the second choice. He wouldn't be my second choice if there was a bit more time. But I think with the World Cup just around the corner, it would be Stephen Kitsoff would be my second choice. But I must admit, coming to loose head position, there's some absolutely wonderful loose heads that come out of South Africa. You know, you got Pierre Skuman, he's playing exceptional rugby overseas. But I was watching Supersport the other night, and I think Scotland have already started courting him to go play for Scotland. So, but good on him. You know what I mean? I think that's the route he's going to go. And looking at his age, because props at about 28, they start getting into their own, and I think he'll be an exceptional scrummager. Yeah, he'll be for another country, but yeah, coming back to answer the question, the Beast and Stephen.
What do you think of the comment of Andre on the live chat? He's saying what he would do is wrap up Beast in cotton wool and play Lizo Goboko in the rugby championships and just keep Beast for the World Cup because we can't risk an injury to him.
I honestly feel that Lizo is probably the heir apparent to the Beast at the moment. And it would be nice to probably see him play a game with Beast, one or two games coming off the bench, getting that kind of experience with the Beast. I think he would learn more from the Beast than he would learn from Stephen. And right. I think we've got such a fortunate position that we actually have a really quality tight head that can pass that knowledge along. Loose head, sorry.
Well, talking of tight heads, let's stay there and we'll stay with you because being a prop, we'll give you first crack at the tight head position there. So we'll come back to hooker afterwards. The number 3 jersey?
That was a tough one. Last year I did a whole show on this that I was very, very concerned about the tight head side because, for me, I think to have a quality scrum or have a quality team, you have to have a technically savvy tight head. It's probably the most important position in the scrum. And I was just looking at the players that we had, and the first one that comes to mind would probably be Frans Malherbe, but I feel he spends too much time at McDonald's. I think he's a little bit overweight. I don't mean it. I just honestly feel if the guy could lose maybe 5 kilograms, maybe go do some training with Jesse Creel, I think he would be an exceptional prop. I think he's got great technique. I just think he's a little bit overweight. But that's I shouldn't really talk because I know I'm also a little bit overweight. So,
yeah, but you're not playing prop for South Africa.
No. Then after that, I'd probably look at the versatile player. I'd probably look at Trevor. Trevor is the one to cover both sides. I think he's on exceptional form. He's been there. He's done it. The second tight head to take along. Yeah, look. 2 years ago, I really liked Vincent Koch, but I've been watching him lately and. I'm in two minds when it comes to Vincent Koch. Kuni Oosthuizen's coming back. I used to like him before he had the injury. Thomas du Toit, he's another one that we could look at. So there's quite a few. But my concern is, do we have the kind of tight heads that could go up against Mecca Vunipola, Joe Moody? Now, these are quality quality players that they're going to be going up against, and do we actually have a world-class tight head? That's my biggest concern. But if you ask me tomorrow, it'd be Frans Malherbe, Trevor Nyankani, and Sherbet. I might take Vincent
Koch. Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. Well, it shows you this is going to be an interesting one because there's a lot of names being thrown in the ring there. I must say, Couch, let me move on to you now. I've got the headline that we can use to try and market the show afterwards, eh? Rugby pundit says Malherbe needs to lose 5 kilos. I reckon that could go viral.
At least it wasn't me who said it this time, eh? So it's okay. Listen, man, if there's one place you can carry 5 extra kgs, it's at number 3. Eh? Sometimes that little bit of extra weight isn't a bad thing, and I'd keep him far away from Jesse Krill. We don't need any of those fancy footwork from him. He's there to come and do a job, and that's to anchor the scrum. And I must say, like 18 months ago, I was pretty disappointed in Rassie bringing through Malherbe and being all, listen, this is my number one. He wasn't in form. He wasn't playing a lot of rugby. Wilco Low was far and away the starting tight head, and he'd moved up in the rankings. And I must say, in this case, Rassie knew what he had in Malherbe, and I think he's been proven right. He's a quality proven performer, and I think he won't be moving away from him. And we've pinned our colour to the mast there. That's the one we're going to go for, and Malherbe is the starting 3. And then behind them, I'll still go for Volko again. It's World Cup year. I think he missed the trick last year, not getting Vincent involved more. Vincent Koch, he's an experienced guy. He's been in the Northern Hemisphere now. He's seen it all. He's experienced it all. I was very keen on him getting the exposure. I was actually thinking he would be ahead of Malherbe in the queue of Volko being younger. But yeah, I think we've kind of missed that. So it's Volko Low behind Malherbe for me for consistency's sake. And he often is going to come on with Mbonambi, Wilco Low, and Mbonambi's a solid combination now. They used each other, and then you'll probably have Kitshoff as well in mind coming off the bench. So that's just a good, solid provincial setup. So there's no moving away from that. And then, no, it's as Donovan said, there are a few options with the guys moving around. You could have Kuni, Thomas the Tank, but I'll go for Trevor. Trevor's been in the setup. I think he's actually improved quite a bit. He used to be a bit of a liability, more in the loose, and this season again the Bulls have shown good confidence in him, and I think he's grown a lot. And I mean, just again, as Sean said, the time invested in him and the effort, they're gonna stick with him, and he's gonna be the guy who's gonna go to play both. And then just lastly, you've got to remember we've come from a long line of tight heads who've been a little bit overweight. We've got the older Tommy Loubser, who used to carry the sheep around on his farm, who had a boopens, and he was great stuff. So let's not pick them off too much, eh?
Well, Henrik Swart says, in his view, the tight head prop's most important position on the field, and your second most position is your reserve tight head prop. Sean, what do you think of that one? One of the most important positions on the field, surely.
Yeah, and you are speaking to a backline player, so I'm going to keep my answers simple and not try to dive too much into it. But I do agree. I think it's very important. I think Malherbe, a controversial selection some time back. However, end of year tour, he definitely performed scrummaging. So I think he's going. And then I think it's a tough one, but I really think Vincent Koch's done a hell of a lot this year. Koch comes out of playing with Mako. It comes out of a winning environment. He's got that never give up attitude. Not saying that the other players do, but he comes out of a completely different environment, and we could definitely benefit from it. He's also in quite good nick at the moment. I think those two I'd like to see going, and then I had a good chuckle. Henrik mentioned about how the tight head must only be there to scrum. But I tell you, Kuni Oosthuizen offers a hell of a lot in open play. And if he's fit, he scrums well. I think he's fixed up his scrumming issues, and I think he offers a lot in open play as well, which coming off the bench to give him 20 minutes when he's got a little bit of sidesteps and a couple of other chochas that he throws in. Like, I'm quite happy with that if he does a job in the tight phases as well. So, but Nyakane is still very much in the mix. So it's a bit of a tough one for my fifth prop, but I think Malherbe and Koch would be my first two.
And it was interesting to hear the tight head discussion. Okay, Malherbe seemed to be unanimous choice, but there were a lot more names thrown in the ring, Sean. And can we take that as a sign that we got great depth at tight head, or is it a sign that we actually don't have that many standout tight heads, and that's the reason we've got all of these guys? In other words, I mean, should we be a little bit worried about the tight head position?
Yeah, again, I'm definitely not an expert on this or many other aspects of rugby, but I think, listen, even if we're not in a great space with tight heads, the fact that we've got competitive guys will push people up or down. They will either strive to be better or they will fall away, and it'll be an easier pick for us. I think we're in a good space. If you have a look at the front rows, we honestly have our front row stock set up for the World Cup and post World Cup. Which is great. We've never had a problem in loosies. Our locks are normally always very good. So all of a sudden, as a Springbok supporter looking ahead for the next 5, 6, 7 years until the next World Cup, I think we're in pretty good shape.
Right, and just to mention the thought of playing against Marco Vanapulo, well, that will be good news for South Africa because it means one of two things. We beat New Zealand in our opening game and we play England in the semis, or possibly we meet England in the final. So we'll see if they come up against each other. But Sean, let's stay with you as we move on to the hooker conversation.
Brent, just quickly, the last thing, I think we've got excellent depth all around. I mean, in South African rugby and props, we're the number one destination of choice when people come to look for props. I mean, there's no doubt about it. We just talked about who would go now, and probably Uni isn't going, Carlos Sadi and Thomas the Toy. So I mean, those are decent tighthead props that we're not even considering. So now I think we're in a very good space, and as they've said, we're in a good space going forward as well. Not even just for now.
Right, so we're looking healthy on the prop side. Let's move to hooker now, and I'll go with Judge Rugby to start us off on that one. I guess an obvious first choice, Judge.
Yeah, I think Malcolm Marx is a no-brainer. I do have. I'm a little bit apprehensive in loading him too much. I think he's there more not as a hooker but as an exceptional rugby player. He's definitely got his darts. He's fixed up a little bit better, and he's spent a little bit more time in the box setup. So he is getting better at that. But he's definitely got better from a hooking point of view in terms of what his basics and what his job is, and obviously the loose options that he provides is incredible and a great athlete. And then I think Bongi Banambi, if he stays fit, I think he's pretty much our next hooker. I know that he's been in and out with injury, and that's why I'm a little apprehensive. Other than that, if he's fit, he's going. I think he's got incredible work rate. He's a lot tighter, and he really, really does his job in the heart of everything. So I'm quite happy to send him away. Outside of that, I'm not too sure where we're gonna go. Bismarck has been spoken about for obvious reasons. He's had a bit of an up and down season. I haven't watched all of his games. He's had some good ones and some not so great ones. But I wouldn't take him unless there's an injury. So yeah, but 1 and 2 pretty much settled.
Right. Let's go across to our tight forward, Donovan. Donovan, what do you make of those two, and who else would you take?
I think it's no-brainer taking Marks. If you were choosing a World 15 tomorrow, you'd be on the shortlist for definite. Coming after that, and you are right. I don't think he's been selected for his hooking skills. I think he's been selected as a rugby player. The same as for me, the best actual hooker is probably Cody Taylor on the planet. But he ain't no Dane Coles, and he ain't no Malcolm Marx, and these guys bring something a little bit extra. It's what Creevy brings to the field. So yeah, Malcolm Marx would be my first choice. But I think it might be time to actually start playing some of the other players at international level. We know what Marx can do. We've got 4 games until the World Cup. Might as well see some other players playing in the positions. If Bongi's fit, yes, he'd be my second choice without a doubt. I think he comes in at the right time, and he does his job really well. And even if Marx goes off, you know that you're getting a level of performance that's world class, comparable. I'm still in two minds with Schalk Brits. I really am. Yes, if he was maybe, I still think he's in excellent shape, but I don't know. I just think it's time to give somebody else a little bit of a chance. If I was going to take my two hookers, yes, Malcolm Marx, Bongi, and I don't know if Russie's going to take a third one. He might, but I don't think he will.
You go with Schalk. What do you think, Justin? Just making a comment in the live chat. Akker, is he in with any sort of shout? Did his tirade of punches that he threw against Schalk Brits, did that end his hopes once and for all?
No, I like Akker Tundameva, the Warthog. I really do like him. I think he's going to do a hell of a lot better overseas than he ever did in South Africa. And I think he's got. There's a little bit of a difference between the body style of a Northern Hemisphere number 2 and a Southern Hemisphere number 2. It's quite strange. And I think Akker's got a little bit more of a, like that Jamie George, that's more like down and dirty, get into the ruck and really, be the mongrel, So I think he's going to do exceptionally well up there. It's just quite sad that we just don't have space for a player like that at international level. And if he's young enough, he's going to be snapped up eventually. You'll go through all these residence things, and when he turns 28, 29, then he'll be playing for somebody else. I know. Has he played for South Africa?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Couch, has he played? Do you know? Short?
Yes, he played, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I just want to jump in there. Like, you see, Akker, for me, I'm very apprehensive about, just because, again, he falls into that good rugby player mold, and is not like his actual job as a hooker is sometimes like everyone laughs off that he doesn't do his job, and it's okay. But look what he does. He's stolen this ball, etc., etc. Like, I still believe that we need to make things like they need to get their job done first and foremost. And at international level, you get shown up a little bit more. But my thing is, if we're going to the World Cup, and I can't believe I forgot about Schalk Brits. I don't know why it slipped my mind, because I'm a massive fan. But if we're going to go to the World Cup, having Schalk Brits there is not the worst thing in the world. You're not taking guys to a World Cup to give them international experience so you can play them later on. I'm sorry, that's not really the role of a World Cup. The World Cup is, if we are injured, if we have 2 injuries, then we can't send anyone else, and we've got a choice between starting Schalk Brits or Akker Tundameva, I would pick Schalk Brits. There's, without a shadow of a doubt, in terms, he's been there, he's done that. It's not going to be, and not saying that Akker is going to be like this, but when you take guys, inexperienced guys, and you go to a World Cup, they're going to be all wide-eyed. It's their first test, their second test, their third test. Maybe it's their first away test. Maybe it's the first time they're playing against the All Blacks. Maybe it's the first time they're playing against England. Maybe it's the first time they've been in a knockout game. So there's a whole bunch of stuff, and all of a sudden they get overwhelmed, and then the guy next to them can't help them because he's in the same position. Then we start unraveling pretty quickly. So I don't think I'd have Akker for the World Cup, no. And I think we've got a rugby championship to go through where we can work very, very, and on a small scale with moving guys around and resting players, but again, not wholesale, because it would mess up everything. It's such a fine balance, and it's a tough one to do.
It's a tough one, and I want to bring Couch in there now. Couch, and before you get on to your main choices, let me talk about Schalk Brits for a bit, because I like Schalk Brits. I've always been a fan of his. But for me, he is very much the hooker who's ideal in a slightly looser kind of game. He's great. He gets his job done, but at the same time, he's excellent with the ball distribution and making things happen. My question to you is, in this World Cup, come the knockout stages, is that sort of player going to be valuable, or we really just want someone solid who can really scrum and throw and power? Because what I'm sort of picturing is a World Cup of incredibly low-scoring knockout matches.
Exactly, Brent. I think the question is, if you had to lose Bongi and Malcolm Marx, I wouldn't start Schalk Brits. I mean, that's where I differ from Sean on that one. Is I would start the Akker Tundameva. To me, he's physically more imposing. I know the throwing is a bit of an issue, and Schalk Brits has probably got that under the belt a little bit better, and in a good combination with RG after the season. But I've got serious concern around Schalk. I think he's going as a behind the scenes coach. I don't think he's going to play a lot of rugby. I mean, he's just going to be around there in the guys' ears. He's fantastic. I mean, he's a great guy. I love, again, he's exactly like Warren Whiteley to me. I love the spirit in which he plays rugby. I think that's the way it should be. And I mean, he did incredibly well for himself overseas, and he's done great to be in the mix, and he deserves everything that comes his way. Personally, I'm a very big Akker van der Merwe fan. I think in terms of being a finisher who comes off the bench, I think we've missed that boat completely in terms of picking your best team and then picking your best bench. And to me, Akker van der Merwe is the first guy down when you pick a bench. I mean, when I'm trailing 10 points, I'm not worried about who's going to hit the line out. I'm worried about a guy who's going to bust through 3 tackles and get him in the corner. So to me, that's where I like the wrecking ball. I'd have him involved last season already. I'd have him playing a much bigger role. I think now, if we had to select the team now, unfortunately, he's missing out. He's not going to the World Cup because he hasn't been tightly in that setup enough, and he's now been out, and there are all sorts of other issues. So, and with the Sale signing, I just think he's already, his mind's not there anymore. He's left the building, and I don't even know what the status is on the injury. So, unfortunately, we missed that 6 months ago. I thought Akker van der Merwe was the way to go. Unfortunately, it would be tough playing him on the bench because a guy like Bongi Mbonambe deserves to be there, because I mean he's one of the more solid hookers we have, and his basics have come on quite a lot. But just, I mean, the guys have talked about it as well, but I think you can't mention enough. If I was Malcolm Marx's agent, he would be the richest player in world rugby. Honestly, bar none, there's no one who can do what Malcolm Marx does. He's a loose forward in a hooker's body. He's rampant. I mean, a little bit of work and he'll be one of the better line-out hookers. There aren't a lot of guys who can really stick their hands up and say that they're fantastic line-out hookers. I mean, even Cody Taylor has been an absolute mess when he's played now since he's been a liability at line-out time for the Crusaders. So I honestly think he's not actually that far behind some of the other guys anymore, and he can do things that no one else can. I promise you, he would be in Toulon playing for the big bucks if I was involved.
Well, it's nice of you to launch your sport agency business here on the show, Han. Best of luck to you. Donovan, just a final word for you then. I just see, as a Victor saying, if Mark get injured, he would definitely go the Bismarck route. Do you think there is any chance that Bismarck will get the nod? My personal view is that he won't. I don't think Rassie's going to go in that direction, but do you think there's a chance?
I've been watching him play. I've watched him play a few games this season. He's not the same player he was when he left South Africa. He really isn't. But at the end of the day, it's they were talking about Nonu, not being called up for the All Blacks, and they were going, well, it doesn't need to be called up, because if there's a problem, you just phone him up and he just slips right in. So Bismarck's been there. He's been to the World Cup. He's not going to be wide-eyed. He's been there, done it, got the T-shirt. So if everyone had been taken, so if we've lost Marx, lost Bongi, lost Akker, then maybe I'd make the call to Bismarck. But no, it wouldn't be my first call, though. I just don't think he's in the same form to go up against some of these really, really young guys out there.
Well, it sounds like Rassie's got some interesting decisions there. Just welcome to... I saw someone say, swing low, sweet chariot. James Slater on the live chat. So he's either English or he's backing England, like I know quite a few of us are doing in the World Cup. Couch, where's your money going, man? Commit now.
Brent, I just want to say, I think if Malcolm Marx goes out in the rugby championships, I think they phone Bismarck du Plessis. No doubt in my mind. I think, as I said, the Akker boat has left the harbour. They go back to Bismarck, and in that case, I honestly think he'd be starting the World Cup semi-final if he does go as one of the 3 hookers. He'd start ahead of Bongi Mbonambe, and he'll definitely start ahead of Skulpritz in a semi-final. And then my choices, I'll obviously have Malcolm Marx and Bongi Mbonambe and take Skulk. As I said, that's the bed they've made at this stage, and they're going to have to sleep in it.
I must say, personally, Bismarck du Plessis, for me, his best opportunity. He was playing the best rugby of his career back. I think it was the 2011 World Cup when he was the understudy to Smith. And I felt that they kept John Smith for one World Cup too many. And then already in 2015, I didn't think he was maybe quite at his best. So for me personally, and I agree with Hendrik in the chat, he's saying the Bismarck ship has sailed. I would look elsewhere. I'm not saying he's not a great player, but I would look elsewhere, certainly in the hooker positions there, other than Bismarck. Let's move on, though, guys, to the lock pairing. So some interesting chat around the front rows. And Couch Critic, let me start with you there. Let's talk about the number 4 jersey.
Yeah, Brent, again, I think this is almost as the loose forwards. You just got to get your combination right and talk about how you're going about selecting this. To me, the number 4 is it doesn't really matter which number is on your back, but you need a combination in terms of one physical imposing lock and one line out caller, a little bit looser kind of player. Or that's the traditional combination, and obviously the Bakkies Botha Matfield kind of mold that we do enjoy. So out and out, I've gotten into so many arguments with people on social media where they say RG Snyman is better than Eben Etzebeth, and I'm saying you're not comparing apples with apples here. It's they've got a different role in the team. RG plays looser. He's supposed to go around and supposed to carry the ball, and Eben is supposed to just do channel 1 and hit the rucks and that kind of thing, and obviously be physically imposing and mongrel and in people's faces. So it's not a fair comparison to me. Number 4, we've only got one outright traditional South African number 4, and that is Eben Etzebeth. Obviously, getting him to his best form would be critical, obviously, but he is still far and away only, to me, the trademark number 4. And I suppose you could have a Luet or Mostert moving towards backup in that position. Personally, if I had to choose between the two at this stage, I'd take a Mostert. I think he's also valuable because he can shift to 5. But to me, Eben Etzebeth is far and away the best number 4 country, and I'll have Mostert probably backing him up as a 4 option.
Sean, let me go to you there. Would you agree, first of all, with Hein's argument on social media that comparing an Etzebeth to an RG Snyman's not really on? They're different types of locks?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I agree on the combo side. A year or 2 back, I thought Pieter-Steph du Toit and Eben Etzebeth were going to be the next greatest lock pairing ever, and then I've had to slowly but surely get used to the fact that Pieter-Steph du Toit is a great blindside flanker, so kind of messed up my vibe a bit. But I think Eben, if fit, is going and he's our number 4. I think other than that, I don't know. Like, if Eben doesn't go, let's say he's injured, because realistically it's an option now.
Yes.
Are we going to move Pieter-Steph du Toit back into locks to manage that space a bit? So I don't know who else, to be honest. I think Achia can go in there, but I agree that Eben's a better 4. But Achia can go in, and on the 5 side, I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but it's going to be quite interesting. But we've got 2 locks in Luet and in Mostert that will make between 18 and 22 tackles a game, each game. Like, they're just tackle machines. So we're in a good space there, and it's about that balance and about how we sort it out. I think it all really hinges on if Eben Etzebeth is fit and goes.
Yeah, Donovan, you'd agree with that, I'm sure. Eben is a big worry for us if he isn't fit. What are your thoughts on the 4 position? And you can lead straight into the chat on 5 as well.
I think it's Eben is a shoo-in for number 4. I think the 4 position is changing. We got players like James Ryan are coming through. They're not a traditional 4. So we're getting these Brodie Retallick he can play channel 1, and he can offload, and he can sidestep, and he can kick. So I think the 4 position's changing a little bit. But yes, we always come back to Bakkies Botha and Victor Matfield because it's a combination that works for us. So for me, I also think there's a big combination. There needs to be a big combination between the number 2 and the number 5. And I know that Marks plays very well with Franco Mostert. I think they understand how each other work. So that would be the line out sorted out at the same time. So I've always liked an Eben Etzebeth Franco Mostert as the lock pairing. I think that's really good. I've really liked Achia Snyman, but if I had to choose between Achia Snyman or Luet, I'd probably take Luet because I think Luet's a better rugby player. I think he not only can he do the physical stuff, but he literally can offload and he can do almost anything. I think he's the closest we have to a Brodie Retallick than any other lock that we have. So his injury was a bigger loss to us than a lot of the other players. But Eben's world class. He is. He is world class. He's been there. He has done it. He has got oodles of caps, and people tend to follow him as well. So yeah, Eben Etzebeth, Franco Mostert, and I'd have to say Archie Snyman is the third choice.
Right. Couch, let me come across to you for Archie Snyman. I mean, I've been really impressed with some of the stuff he's done for the Bulls this season, but he has tended to also thrive in the looser games where, I mean, he's quite frankly often been the Bulls' most creative player on the field, which says a lot about the Bulls. And sorry about that, Donovan, but says a lot about the Bulls' creativity more than anything else. He really has shown some creative touches. But I just worry, is he the type of guy you want in that semi-final, that 18-15 match?
Brent, I do a weekly roundup team for the Yellow Cap, and I think I want to do one at the end of the season, obviously, to say this is almost like your shadow Springbok team picked on form. And I can tell you now, I can stop counting. RG Snyman is the number 5 already. That he's shot the lights out. I think he's fantastic. I think he's taken on a lot of the things that the Bulls coaches have into the field, and that John Mitchell put him. I think he's taken his game to a whole new level. He's got skills, he's got physicality, and I think he's superb. I think he's the most improved player in the country, bar none. And to me, I think that Eben Etzebeth, RG Snyman combination is the way to go. That I think it's going to be huge. If they didn't both bugger off overseas or whatever, that'll be my number 1 combination for 4 years to come. I think RG Snyman is superb. I think Donovan said about the Brody Retallick. I think RG Snyman could be the closest we could get to that. A little bit less on the physicality, but in terms of his ball handling and skills, he's a distributor. He's got very basketball pass that New Zealand blocks with you. So to me, that's the combination there. Unfortunately, Loot's injury cost him. So it's a shootout between Loot de Jager and Franco Mostert. For me, if you're taking 4 locks plus Pieter Steph the Toy, then you can take both. But unfortunately, I'd probably go for Mostert in the end with Loot missing out due to injury. So I'll go to Mostert there, and Loot will have to come in if Eben is injured. But that's where I'll go.
Welcome to Stephen Marks in the live chat. He says Eben and Loot with RG Snyman on the bench, and also points out that Franco can play 7 as well. So let's go back to you, Sean. Now, you touched on the 5 jersey, but never got into it in a great deal of detail. What do you think of that comment there from Stephen Marks, who we hope is not related to our hooker?
Yeah. The thing is we are going to leave, if everyone's fit, we are going to leave a world-class lock at home. Between Mostert, Achie, and Loot, one of them are probably going to stay behind. And that's obviously if everyone's is fit and ready to go. So it's going to be a tough one. I think the truth is that everyone's fit. I think Achie stays behind because he's a little bit lower down the pecking order. I just think it's a real tough one, and I don't know what to do. But I don't know if Loot's going to be back in time. I'm not sure when exactly he's going to be fit. But Loot does incredible things in a Springbok jersey. So does Achie. It's tough. I mean, imagine having, let's say, Eben sits out a game and you can have Achie and Mostert 4 and 5. You've got 2 of the biggest locks ever. I mean, if Marks can't hit them, then I could probably hit them from the sideline. So yeah, we are really spoilt, and we've got 2 locks that can comfortably play blindside in Pieter Steph du Toit and Franco Mostert. So that maybe maybe Mostert stays behind because we don't need a lock that can play on the side, because we've got Pieter Steph that can play at lock, if you understand. So that balance doesn't really need to happen. So I think whoever we play is going to not let us down at all. And I think it's really a case of who do you prefer as opposed to who's better.
Yeah, it certainly does seem we're at least spoiled for choice in the tight 5 positions. I can't really say the same maybe for all of the positions. Guys, anything else to add on the tight 5 before we close this off? Couch, nothing from you? Donovan? All done? Guys, then thanks very much for the chat on the tight 5. I think, as I say, the one thing that's come out here, we've got plenty of depth. I do want to just ask you guys about something. Is it under 20 World Cup starts? One of my favorite events to watch.
Brent, can I just quickly, to finish off on the tight 5? I think even this past weekend, I was watching a little bit of super rugby games in tight situations, and it's just incredible to know what difference it is when you can rely on a strong scrum and a really strong set piece. It's not just being able to compete and being able to, but really to dominate. Now, I know, probably against your New Zealands and against your islands, you're going to find it tough to dominate, but at least not be dominated. But, the game is, and you talked about, I think, 18-15 or 18-16 game along the line. When you stuck in 5 meters from your own try line with a scrum, your ball under pressure, it's great knowing that you don't have to funnel the ball out, get it to your 5 under pressure. It's either going to be a stable ball, a little bit of a right shoulder, a little bit of a left shoulder, whichever one you prefer, or you're going to be able to keep it in, milk that penalty, and kick yourself back up to the 10-yard line and play your rugby from there. I mean, to me, that makes a massive difference in the type of game you can play and you need to play. And the same with, chasing a game, knowing that you can kick to a corner and you've got that reliable maul and those kind of things. And again, we've seen that in Super Rugby, how important the rolling maul is going to be come this Rugby World Cup. So I think it's something where, we say it, there's a reason why it starts at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those guys are the guys who are going to have to really not just they've got to really do the business and dominate it. If the Springboks or whichever team, to me, dominates that physicality up front, they're going to have a huge advantage in winning this World Cup.
Donovan, let me, on that point, come to you and say, is there perhaps a bit of a weakness in the Southern Hemisphere? In particular, I'm thinking of New Zealand. Is that an area that the Northern Hemisphere sides might be stronger than them, or do you think the New Zealand scrum will match them pound for pound?
I was thinking about this the other day, and I sat back and I thought, we're one of the few countries with such a fortunate position that we can actually send our 21-year-old hookers and props and number 4s and 5s to go play for the Kings and go play for the Cheetahs, go ply their trade up north where scrumming, you scrum every 5 minutes, and scrum's about getting the penalty. It's not about just channel one ball out to the backs, expansive game. It's dirty. It's in the rain. We're in such a fortunate position that we've got the players, and we can actually send them up there when they're young to actually go learn from up north. I honestly feel that they scrum a hell of a lot better than what we do, and they use the scrum to get penalties. I can't remember who was doing the interview. And he was so shocked when he joined the team. They said, "Oh, we're going to scrum now. Okay, time to get a penalty." And it's just, that's how you look at the set pieces. It's about respecting the 3 points. And I just think we've got a super fortunate position. We've got great depth in all those positions. We've got such a great opportunity to send them up north. Once they've got the IP, bring them back. I think we're doing well in both worlds. But coming back to New Zealand, I still think New Zealand, a lot of people can't get down and dirty, and that's the way to beat them. I think they know how to get down and dirty at the tight 5.
Yeah, certainly. They always do stand up, and they're there to be counted when they have to be. Sean, final word for you on that. Is the scrum something that we can see as a weapon going into this World Cup, or should we be worried about the likes of a potential quarterfinal against Ireland or a semi-final against England?
Yeah, the Northern Hemisphere do scrum well, and their whole scrum for the penalty and everything has come from the way the Six Nations has been set up by not having bonus points for so many years. I think 2 years ago they started with their bonus points, so they didn't really need to get tries. It didn't really matter to them whether they won by 1 or by 4. So and obviously being such heavy fields and the backs not really being able to run too fast, it was the nature of the beast. I think the Kiwis are. I don't think you could ever dominate the Kiwis for the whole game. I think as a unit, I think they are so technically sound together in terms of understanding how they work as a whole. I think we'll always get them by. I think where the sides like Australia and South Africa sometimes get undone is when we don't work together and use our 8 players to make a difference. And then also saw one of the guys on the chat mention the RGs and saying that their weakest part of their game currently is their scrum, which is bizarre. Like, we'd never ever think that. And I tell you, we cannot thank the rugby gods enough for that, because they have the deadliest back line. At the moment, they are cooking and they have no platform to work off. I couldn't think of anything better. When they get it right, we just mustn't be involved, because if they bring back their Los Pumas chop or whatever they call their scrum, they're gonna start hurting people.
Yeah,
we're gonna start supporting Phil Kearns on that on his opinion there and say no, shaft the Jaguares.
Excellent. You're on it. Excellent, guys. It's been a great chat. Just very quickly, just want to touch on it with each of you. The Under-20 World Cup's coming up now. Judge, will you be watching that? Sorry, Judge, you're on mute there.
Hi, welcome back. Sorry, I'm definitely going to be watching. I've been having a look at some of the squads that are going through. So the Under-20 World Cup, they're naming 28-man squads. So I think you can still only use 23 players, but they've got 28 guys that are named. So you can kind of cherry pick who's going to, where you're struggling. So it's going to be interesting to see that. So that's something to bear in mind. And also, if you have a look at if you've been watching the England Premiership, if you have a look at the England Under-20 squad, you're going to be a little bit surprised by how many names you recognize. The England squad have got some big boys in there. And they have a certain Vunipola at fly half, who is the younger brother of Mako and Billy.
Interesting. And a fly half as well. You wouldn't picture them having a fly half. And Couch, I'll quickly go across to you with the Under-20s. Just on the Good for the Game forum, I saw our good mate in the UK Southpaw. He reckons Australia are going to be big runners. I think they're double figures, around 11-1. And he reckons quite a lot of them played last time. And they also, Australia, trying to build the next generation of rugby players. So it could be an interesting one, that.
Yes, I think you said they beat New Zealand recently. So obviously, I mean, that's something to keep an eye on. And, being a punting man, I'll probably follow Old South in there. I'll show him some faith. But I must have heard good things about England, even though Ireland are the Six Nations champions or something, if I'm not mistaken. But the 28-man squad, that's something I didn't know about, so that's going to be interesting. But I think I'll only watch the big games. I'm not really going to be focusing. I mean, I've got some proper Cricket World Cup matches to watch, so I've got something alternative planned there.
And Donovan, it feels a bit weird on the Under-20 World Cup that we going in as such big underdogs. I think we're something like 15-1 or something like that. I mean, we have been past winners. But a sign that a lot of people talk on Twitter, the fact that our school rugby seems to be so strong, but we seem to lose it as we get up to the next age group.
Actually, I was reading quite an interesting article about the makeup of the Under-20s, that they don't traditionally come from the big five schools, and it was quite strange. I didn't finish the article, so I might be talking rubbish when it got to the end. But normally, I'm going to watch it, but I'm probably going to watch the big games. But I'm going to try to watch all of the South African games. It'd be nice to see who the up-and-coming players are, because it would be nice to actually see the England side, because I hear cracking things about them. I think they did beat us the last couple of months, so it would be quite interesting to see. But these are the next generation stars. Well, let's see, because if we don't watch them and our selectors don't watch them, somebody else is going to choose them for their country.
Exactly. It's going to be exciting. It certainly is one of my favorite tournaments. I do enjoy watching it. Like you can't watch all the games in it. I don't know how they've scheduled it this year, but bizarrely, they normally have 3 games on at the same time. So if you do want to watch all of them, you've literally got to bounce channels. Is it two at once? So
Argentina, so it's going to be strange times in any case.
Oh, okay. I didn't even realize that.
They started 3:30 our time, and there's 2 games on at a time, and they got three sets of games. So you can always find one. But Butte tomorrow, England, Ireland to start off.
That's a cracker. I know Henrik Swart says he's been doing some research on the Six Nations. But gents, that brings us to the end. We've come in nicely within the hour. Thanks for a great discussion around the Type 5, and plenty to talk about on the World Cups going forwards. Judge, thanks very much.
Thank you, guys, and always it's great to chat to you and listen to what you have to say. So have a good one.
Excellent. And you can find Judge at Judge Rugby on Twitter. Join his many followers. He's one of the most active with constructive tweets that I've found. I do know some guys out there who are not that constructive with their tweets, but excellent one to follow. And then Couch Critic, he writes on the Good for the Game website and also for the Yellow Cap. Couch, good to have you on the show, and we'll chat to you later in the week on Thursday night for those who do enjoy their betting, the handicap rugby chat that matters. That's 9 o'clock.
Cheers, Brent. Thanks, man. I was lucky chatting as always, eh?
Excellent. And then finally, Donovan, Unbiased Rugby. Donovan, I'll stick a link up at the end of the show to your channel, so the guys can go and follow you there as well. What's your next video you're going to be doing?
Well, obviously we're getting now to the business end of Super Rugby, so I'm probably going to be focusing in on that. It's been quite difficult to try and manage everything because I really enjoy watching Premiership Rugby. So at least now I can just focus in on the Super Rugby games. But yeah, probably the Super Rugby. I finished that up, and let's see. We'll probably have a Jaguares, predicting it, a Jaguares Crusaders final.
Excellent. No doubt.
Just a quick one.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. Just a quick one. While we've spoken about Springboks and player management, just found out Andre Pollard's been flown out to New Zealand for one game for the Bulls. So,
You serious?
Yeah, not great news, eh?
Not great news. They didn't watch the show, did they? Excellent, guys. And thanks very much to the guys in the live chat. We had quite a few of them on. Great getting your opinions on the team selections as well. And yeah, just in closing, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, you can do so below the video. And we will catch you Thursday night at 9 o'clock for those who enjoy the betting angle with the handicap rugby chat that matters. Have a good week, and we'll see you on Twitter.